Didn't realise there'd be this many people, if I'm honest, about a forum. Right, I'll start with the token kind of who am I? My name's Lee Messenger. I'm on Twitter a lot, probably more than I should be. Yoda's my dad, it's my Twitter name. I've worked with Umbraco since the beginning of version 4, which is the kind of transition from 3 and 4. It's when I started with it. I've been a lot quieter in the version 7 package development side. I did a lot for version 4. I think I've had trouble trying to get into the Angular thing. Don't quite get my head around that at the minute. I also developed a number of packages for the version we can't talk about. So I haven't said anything more about that. I work for Aptitude. We're a digital agency in Bedford. I'm going to take Adam's sort of stance there and say we're also looking for developers. So if you actually want to come to if you want to come to sunny Bedford and work, now why wouldn't you? Come here. So right, what we're going to talk about is dialogue. I just wanted to give you an overview of what it is. I think most people know what it is by now. It is a forum package for version 7 only. And it is a sort of a cross between Stack Overflow and just a standard forum. It's a port of MVC forum. I don't know if anyone's seen that. It's something we developed when we were trying to get a head around ASP.NET MVC and trying to see how it worked and kind of what we could do with it. So I've actually ported majority of the code from MVC forum over. So actually still some of the documentation for MVC forum does actually apply to dialogue, which is kind of a help because I've not done that much documentation for it. But because it's a port, literally version 1 was just literally porting everything over and just making it work integrated into Umbraco. That was like the sole purpose of it. So moving forward, hopefully we're going to obviously change some things and improve certain areas of it, which will be handy. Right, the current version 1, I actually released that yesterday or the day before. Can't remember when I wrote the slides. And it's SQL Express only. I started to look at SQL CE because that's kind of how the installer works with Umbraco. It makes it very easy to do SQL CE, but actually, when you think about forums and the size of the data and the stuff you're storing in the fields, it's not SQL CE really isn't suitable for a forum. So I decided just to backtrack that and just support SQL Express for the moment. And it only works in 7.1 upwards. Now, I thought they were going to release 7.2 today, and I was going to put a bit of a downer on this because it doesn't actually work in 7.2 because Shannon, I'll touch on this later, but there's this new concept of like virtual nodes. I don't know if anyone's familiar with the virtual nodes that Shannon's put into Articulate. Okay, one person. Okay, it's really, I suggest you have a look at Articulate, and I can't sort of push enough how simple a package, but how much good stuff there is in there that people don't realise from the little Super Shannon. It's this virtual nodes idea is brilliant. So our problem as developers is, we want multiple pages of different types, and we have to create a ton of doc types, which is a pain in the backside sometimes, especially if you're a package developer and you've got to export all these doc types and properties and everything else. What it does is it actually gives you a concept to be able to create a kind of virtual node, but you can still use, it basically creates a route on the fly, and it enables you to still use current page and use the query stuff in your view as well. So actually, the current page is actually the route that you define. So it could be, you could have, excuse me, there you go, a ton of pages, but every time each one of the pages that you try and query will always give you the current page of the root forum or the root of the blog. And it's very, very like handy for doing big applications where really you don't need an extra page in the CMS tree because it's just like a holding page that you do all the logic in the view or in the controller. It's a very good for doing that. But I suggest you have a quick look at it. I won't try and explain it in detail because to me it's kind of like voodoo black magic. I have no idea how it works. I just copied and pasted Shannon's code, to be brutally honest. Right, version 1.1 will work on 7.2. Okay, so I'll just go over some of the key features that we've ported over. It's really configurable. The idea is the main forum route is set in actually in Umbraco, so it all uses properties and data types. So actually, you could extend it yourself. You can add your own properties and just map it onto the actual global settings object. It's got quite a lot of spam prevention. I've run a lot of forums in over my years. One with about I don't know, something like 30, 40,000 users, and it's got 250,000 posts. So I've had quite a lot of experience of dealing with spam and people that do stuff. So we've got quite a bit of spam prevention. We've got a Kismet in there. We've got like spam questions that you can customize at login. I've got this feature that I've put in called Kill Spammer, which is a button that you have on a user. So if you've got a spammer that comes in, you can literally just click it. And what it does, it just wipes their posts, their points, clears their signature and their website fields, and then bans them. So kills them in one click. So that's it's a handy thing. I had much more of an abusive name for that, but I thought it wasn't appropriate to put into a forum. It's got moderation as well, so it can be just a standard forum. It has permissions, which I'll go to in this minute, but it actually has topic and post moderation, so you can actually say, you know, when people are posting into a certain category, that everything has to be moderated by the admin, and it goes into a little dashboard, which is quite handy. It actually has social logins, Google and Facebook it supports. Everything's tied into the Umbraco membership provider. It's all completely tied in, so actual members get created. Properties are on the members. So I've tried to make this as configurable to you guys as possible. This here, the Google and the Facebook, I have to say, uses Skybrid Social. I don't know if anyone's seen Skybrid Social. Actually, he does not just an Umbraco package for it. He actually does on GitHub. It's just a general library that you can use, and he does a lot more stuff now with it as well. It's really, really good, and it's really much smaller than. I don't know if any of you had any experience of .NET OpenAuth. Oh my God, yeah. So using Skybrid, it was like 10 times better than trying to use that. It's so much easier. And in the code, obviously, all this is on GitHub, which I'll get to. It's got examples of having a Facebook and a Google controller to manage this, and it is like hardly any code. Everything's permission based, which I'll run through in a demo. You can easily create new permissions. I've got examples of that on GitHub on the documentation, and they're all based on a category. So what they do is they work per category that you create, and you can basically change. You can do permissions based on the group. This will show me. I want to do a demo. It's got badges. You've all seen badges in Stack Overflow. What these badges were ported from MVC Forum. So the idea of the badges that we did initially, we kind of came up with this idea that we'd make a class, and this class would compile into its own little DLL, and you can just pop that in the bin folder, and it will just pick it up and work out based on a rule what this badge was and when it was awarded. So the idea we thought would be these rules would be really cool to be shareable. You could make, you know, a ton of these different rules and share them with people, and they can do other stuff. Come to realise that's probably a bit over the top, and I should have just done it with like a little text file or something. You know, live and learn. It's got liking, disliking. You can mark things as solution, and you can also favourite stuff. This is something we've added not in MVC Forum, but in Dialogue. Actually, some of the features that I was going to add to MVC Forum, I've added into Dialogue now first, because I think it's more useful. I don't know about you, but I find quite a lot of posts sometimes that have got some useful code snippets. I actually forget about them, so I want to favourite them and store them somewhere. I stole it from Twitter, really. Member points, do with them what you want. Obviously, each member you can query and see how many points they've got, so you could even use that in your own logic to work out if a member has so many points, they can do other actions on the site. It's themable, again, stolen from Articulate. I stole it completely from there, if I'm honest. Shannon's put it in there. It's really, really good. It sits in its own little folder. You can just copy the folder and you can just select a new theme. It's fantastic. It's a really, really good way of theming something. I've done this to be all multilingual, so everything is in the dictionary items in Umbraco, so you should be able to swap it out quite easily. It's got polls. It's got private messaging between users. It's got the spam control on that. It's got flood control, because actually what we found out is an initial forum I'd done a few years ago, we found that spammers were using private messaging when they realized they could actually, you know, automate sending a ton of private messages to people. So it's got like a flood control. You can set it in minutes, so they can only send one per every 1 a minute or one every 30 seconds or something. And it's got loads more. Okay, so code base. We've built it using as MVC as possible within Umbraco. I think everyone's used root hijacking in Umbraco now with their own models. We've kind of tried to build it that way, but obviously it's integrated with this kind of virtual node idea, which again I would like to go and have a look at it on Articulate. We've tried to build everything as much as possible integrating into Umbraco. It's all built on the APIs or the new services that Morton has built. So actually, this is possible now. The reason why we couldn't do this before, I built NForum, the one before this. This is now possible because members, I don't know if you've tried to deal with members in version 4 or one of the other ones. Again, it was hard work, and also when you've got a ton of properties on a member and you're trying to pull through a load of posts with like 10 members, you know, each time it was doing a query on every single member, every single property as well. So it ended up getting a bit sluggish. Again, it uses the actual, it uses the members integrated into Umbraco, but also the group. So you can create member groups in Umbraco and use it within Dialog. So the theory is behind this, you can actually, if you have existing members and existing groups, as well, not the members more, you could use your existing members and put them into Dialog. You just have to make sure they'd have the same properties that we expect to find on a member. So you'd have to map them over. So it would be possible. It has custom tables, and for that I use Entity Framework. And the reason why I use that is just because I like it, and it's easier to use for me than Petapoco. Also, there's a great second level caching kind of plugin that we use. It's quite lightweight, and also it literally just it caches all the queries, and it handles all the invalidating the cache for me. So it's being lazy, but it works. So I'm not going to complain. And I find it easier for anyone picking it up as well. You don't really have to know SQL. You know, it's all IntelliSensed, and you can work with it quite easy. I've nicked this idea from Nopcommerce. I don't know if anyone's worked with Nopcommerce. Yep, 1, 2, excellent. So partial classes, what I've done, everything's partialed. So the models, controllers, services as well are all have a partial classes. The idea is if you pick it up, even the compiled one, you can actually just hook into one of the controllers and just add a new action result, or without having to create a whole new method, or just make a new method on the service. It just makes life a lot easier without you actually change any core code. If and trying to keep it up to date with updates that we make. It works quite well in Nopcommerce, but I thought we'd do the same thing with this. I just touched on before, it uses virtual nodes. It uses this published content wrapped class, so it inherits from. Again, I'd look that up yourself because I cannot explain it. Documentation is on GitHub. I've tried to put as much as possible on there. Everything from changing, custom permissions and everything else. Blah blah blah. Right. Get on to the service factory. The service factory is what we use internally. It's something we built for all the services that handles all the data interactions with the topics, posts, and Umbraco, dealing with members and actually the content, which shows actually just the forum route in Umbraco. We give this to you to use, so you can actually go and use it anywhere in your site. It's smart enough to know if you use it outside the forum in a different part, you'll actually go and look up the tree and find the forum route to get the settings and everything else. So you can use it externally, so you could kind of build your own forum on a completely in your own custom site in essence, but you'd have to obviously put all your logic in yourself. The create, updates and deletes use a unit of work, which is actually our own one built into with the Entity Framework. There are a ton of examples for using it. I'm only saying this because if you are going to use the service factory and you're going to start updating content yourself, I would suggest you have a quick look at how unit of work works, because obviously you can just roll back quite a lot of the changes before commit if you screws up. Now, the reason why I put the previous image up is think about permissions. Obviously, forums are based around permissions. We've given this service factory because we use it in the core, but what you don't want to do is start pulling out topics that are actually, not thinking about passing them into the permission service, because you're going to end up pulling stuff out that maybe people shouldn't be seeing because they're actually hidden behind the permissions that you've already set. So if you're going to use the service factory, it does give you some great power to do anything you want, but you kind of need to think ahead of what you're actually going to do with it, because you can obviously, if there's some restricted data or something you don't want people to see, like moderators or something, you could end up quite easily being just spitting that out on a page without realizing that it's hidden. Like I say, the caching is done with a second level caching like plugin for Entity Framework. What you have to remember, if you try and update the data for any of the dialog tables outside of our service factory, the data, obviously when you go back to the site, the site's going to stay the same, because the service factory and the plugin invalidates the cache itself. So if you try and update these tables with your own Petapoco stuff that's built into Umbraco, you might find a bit of a data mismatch until someone updates something to refresh or invalidate the cache. Okay, so it's open source. All of this is on GitHub. This is the URL for it. Any issues, bugs, you can post them on there. It's been great. Also, I'm really open to suggestions, things that people, anything you might think would be great for a forum, things that, even if it's not quite related to this, I'm always open to it. And obviously, of course, contributions would be greatly received. Demo time. So what I'm doing is I'm just going to do like an overview and run through it. If I'm obviously I'm following Ben, and I apologise because Ben's very technical, and mine won't be so technical, but I will show you some code and just how it works. Okay. Okay, so once you install it, what it is, it comes up with it's very blank, kind of bootstrapped just out the box, and we've purposely left it like that because you don't want to be having to undo a ton of styles that we've put in there, and also people can make themes. It just makes it easier, and plus we don't particularly want to be making a ton of themes. We want to put add-ons onto it. As I say, it's a simple Stack Overflow stroke forum, so you have a ton of features here. Across the top, we have things like the leaderboard, which works off the points, and it will automatically update itself. We also have this concept of activity. So there is a little table that stores activity, and you can also create kind of types of activity and store them in there. They're kind of generic. They have like a type. Each activity has a type, so you could pull them out and obviously filter them via the type. I'll show you what this does. At the minute, the activities are things like when people have been awarded a badge, when people have updated their profile, when people have registered, and I can't remember what the other ones are, if I'm honest. And then the badges we have at the moment, which I'll show you in the code how these are actually added. We have, they're just based on a simple rule. Each badge you get in a member. So when a badge is triggered, you're passed in a member, then you have to do a query yourself to find out whether it matches the rules. So we have these badges out the box. Again, these might not apply to your site, or if you want to remove them, they're literally just the DLL itself. If you remove them from the bin file, the badge disappears, and anyone that else has actually got that badge will just be removed from them as well. So it just won't show. Right, so I think what we'll do is we'll log in, and so obviously Facebook and Google logins, you need to make sure you've got your own keys for those. Let's the back end. Now what I'm working on here is actually on GitHub. What you see here, I've actually backed up the database, and it's got all the passwords and everything there, so you can actually work on exactly what we're working on at the same time. So I'm just going to log in. Right, just bear with me. What I'm going to do is make sure I try and spin through as much stuff as possible. Otherwise, I'll just be rambling, and you won't get anything out of this. Right, I've logged in there because I've got an account that I've already got. Now, I am an admin, and I'll show you where these are set at the moment. And admins and moderators and standard users are just Umbraco groups. So if I'm an admin, I have extra options here. So I also have my favorites, spam overview. So favorites are if you favorite a post. So I'll quickly show you how you can do this. So if I come in here, I can favorite a post like so. When I come into here, go to my favorites, and it just saves it in there. Very simple, normal, just like Twitter. We have this spam overview as well. So the idea is it tries to flag up things for you. If people, your community, if you've got a busy community, are the people who are going to be your spam finders. They're going to vote things down if you keep vote down, that is. And you can obviously flag this up in here. It gives you an idea. It saves you having to troll around a busy forum and find all the dodgy posts yourself. The approve is the same as the other one. Favorite, it's just a dashboard where you can approve members, approve topics, approve posts. And in here, it's exactly the same. It's just a little button that says approve, 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 and it will just instantly put it live on the site. So I'm trying to whiz through this because I've got quite a lot to show you. And let's have a quick look. So we're coming to the front end. So you have topics and categories, and it will make more sense when I show you in the actual Umbraco office. It uses Markdown at the minute, but you can actually switch it out to use TinyMCE or any other editor. It is purely powered. I'll show you where this all is. What we use is editor templates. I'm sure everyone's used editor templates before for things. Okay, so all we have, it comes with Markdown and TinyMCE already built in. So in our constants file, which is not the best place for it, I believe we have Oh, this is, you can see it all, can't you? Here. So we have this stored here at the moment. Again, a lot of this stuff, I've just ported this out of MVC Forum. So we're going to look to kind of make it a little bit more configurable for this kind of stuff and stuff that shouldn't be in here, pulled out into config files. So all we need to do is if we uncomment this and comment that out, it will literally just swap the editor from Markdown to TinyMCE. Things you can do on here, obviously like, dislike, you can mark a solution. This is laid out a bit funny because obviously the screen, actually this stuff over here, actually sits underneath here on the normal. Obviously it's a responsive thing that's not been done properly. It has some other little features in here. So if you automatically put in like media URLs, it will automatically, for YouTube, Vimeo, Screener, things like that, they just automatically get embedded. You can quote people. You've actually got attached to files as well. So I can actually attach multiple files. You've got options, which I'll show you in a second, how to change this. So once you click them, do have some other cool things on there. It does lightbox them if they're images. If they're files, it doesn't obviously add them to lightbox. Posting, simple stuff. It's all done on Ajax. Try and keep them on the page. Topics. You can create topics, and also we have the idea to create polls. So you can create a poll, get people to vote on them. Also subscribe to topic as well. It automatically subscribes you, so you get emails. Polls are just normal polls. So what I want to do is I'll show you actually the back end of how this is integrated. I think that's probably more interesting. Okay, so as you can see, that's it. That's the only content that we have in the site, really, because it uses this idea of this virtual nodes that Shannon's created. So all the topic URLs, all the member profiles, they're all virtual nodes that don't need to be in here as doc types or any kind of nodes themselves. So you can create categories. So on the forum, first of all, I'll show you the settings. I said it's highly configurable. You have a number of settings and options here. This part here is to do with the virtual nodes. You can actually change the URL itself that it looks for. So obviously for topics, it is always /topic/topic name, and the member profile is always /member name, and page is a generic thing that we use to display kind of miscellaneous stuff, really, like the leaderboards, activities, stuff that are just not really a kind of fodder onto the site. Okay, so settings, as I said, ton of settings. I'm not going to bore you with all of them. If you can download and have a go, just go through and have a look. There's quite a lot on there. It's got configurable points as well as to when people can post based on the amount of points they have and all that other stuff. Email addresses, banned emails, so you can ban people from not obviously joining up. This is the themes. I said there's just one in there at the moment. Groups. Again, this is just a standard Umbraco group picker. So I've got one in there. You choose where you want people to start when they first register. Spam prevention, Akismet, everything else. Social media, just add your keys, etc. Now, the idea is you can create normal categories in here. So you can just create a category, call it a dialogue category, give it some name. Once this is saved and published. Okay, so we've got something here. Once you've saved and published something, you have a permissions tab. In here, it pulls through based on the current permissions you have, which we'll go through in a second in the code-wise, and it pulls through the actual Umbraco groups themselves. Where's our groups? No. It's not working very well, is it? There we go. So as you can see, they're just groups, and also you could make new ones and add them on. Let's go back into here. So as you can see from the beginning, all we've got is people allow them to create polls, create topics. They can vote in polls. You can, if you want to, because you can use, because it's the categories are Umbraco nodes. Obviously, you can use the Umbraco kind of restrictions where you can restrict people from, people have to log in before they can go to it. But that doesn't solve the issue that if someone's in the front end, they're still going to see the latest topics from that category. So the idea is you can use deny access for guests or a different group where anything that's in that category just gets completely hidden from them, so they can't see a thing. So let's have a go in here. Go back. So basically, before I start rambling on even more, in the categories, that's all there is really. Everything else is kind of controlled via code or in the front end. That's how everything's administrated. What I will do is show you the private messages. So if we come in now and I log in as testing, there we go. We do have private messages. So this guy's a private message. Come in here. There we go. So, so they can see. There we go. So the idea is you can message people. It notifies them. There's not much. The messages could be improved. I think maybe we could have some different kind of permissions and filters on messages. But again, we're open to ideas on this. This is just kind of like I said, initial port. Really open to ideas, to be honest, to kind of improve it now. So what I'll do is I'll show you some of the code base here. So small screen should be interesting. So when you download it, everything is in the app plugins dialog plugins folder. As you can see, themes literally are just in the themes folder, and then you have everything spread out just like a normal MVC, kind of like an app would. And they literally are just views, and you can edit them to your heart's content. What I'll show you is badges. So we have things of like, we have badge types, and then you've got badge instances. So these can both be extended, both of them. So badge types are kind of like events that might occur. So you can have upvote, but you can have multiple instances of an upvote. For example, you might want to trigger a badge that on an upvote, you check to see if it's their first upvote, or on an upvote, you might want to check to see if it's a voter making their first vote for someone else. So you can do all sorts of stuff in the badges. So let's have a quick look at the Umbraco one. Screen. Okay, so the badge is pretty simple. All you have to do to create a new badge, you just give it a new GUID and decorate it with this attribute. You give it a name, you give it a display name, a description. All the badge images are in this one folder. It's quite easy to find them. So you just basically chuck an image in there, and then you say how many points you want it to award if they're given that badge. Every time a badge is fired, they get the user. They get a user in that's passed in. So it will be, if there's an upvote, we have an upvote, so we pass in the person that's got the vote, and then we also do the same instant we pass in the person who's voted. So the rule can apply to both of them. And you literally use the service factory, which is here, to do your own logic from there. So obviously all we do here is we go off and get all the users' posts. We find their last post, and then we see if their last post has mentioned Umbraco. If it has, it returns true. If not, it returns false. And it is literally a rule-based scenario. If it's true, the badge will get awarded. If it's false, obviously, it just gets ignored. So we could actually, I guess, see if it works. The only thing that we do have at the moment is we have a badge to stop on busy forums. We don't want the badge checking constantly running all the time. So we have a little of a delay. We have like a 4-minute delay. We see if that's just done a load of badge checking, and it's like a time check. And then if it's already been awarded, or they've had a badge awarded, it kind of delays it for 4 minutes and doesn't run all the logic to kind of keep the forum kind of a bit speedier, to save it kind of constantly just checking for badges all the time with hundreds of users. So what we can try and do, right, let's see. Okay, so I've created a topic, and obviously I've mentioned Umbraco in it. What we can do, first thing you can see, if it hasn't worked, it won't be in the activity. There we go. It's been awarded. So I've got a badge. These here have been added because I did that like. I don't know if you saw me click a like. Obviously they've been added straight away. So now if I come to my member and click on Here's My Dad, I should have in my thing. It's cached. That side of it. It's not good. It will show on here once the cache expires on those. I've got output caching on quite a lot of it to try and speed things up, but obviously it's up to you how long you put it on there for. But that badge has been awarded, as you can see. We do have other things on here to help with keeping track of members. We have admin. Actually, am I? Let's have a look here. So I'm not logged in as that. That'd be why. Let's have a look. Yes. Okay, there you go. So I haven't just completely lied about the output cache either. Just to be on the safe side, it is actually cached, but I may have that off. Fine. So again, we have social logins as well. That's one thing I was going to show you. Login powered by Skybrad. I think like a live demo. Yeah. Okay. Whatever. Hey, it worked. And then what it does actually, we pull through the picture as well, so that we could obviously from Google and from Facebook. Let's see some other code things I can show you that you might use. Obviously, I showed you the service factory here. If I come in here, pull down the service factory. As you can see, it has everything in here. So you can literally use it to do anything you want. And like I said, you can use this anywhere in the site. You could have on a custom homepage that's not within Dialog. You could just call the service factory and then just pull through the latest topics or anything else. But as I said before, if you're going to use this, just make sure you have a look at how the current one works, because it has a permission service that takes in a user and a category. So if you're pulling back topics, you need to get the categories and loop through those. I intend to make that a bit easier down the line, so that actually when you call the topic service, it's already done its permission checks in advance to save you having to manually do it. But as I say, this is just a port over at the moment and just getting version 1 out the door. That's what we've got. Controllers and work. Editors. Right, well, I think I've pretty much showed you everything that I had down. As I said, it wasn't going to be long. Have I got any questions? Anyone got anything they wanted to ask? I'll wrap it up. Sure. It's inside. Yeah, it can be standalone or it's been purposely built to sit within an existing site. I don't know if let's have a quick look. I did have so we could, for example, let's see if this works. What I'll try and do is I'll create a home. I'll stick it in the actual route itself, and then see if we can. I'll put Dialog underneath it, and then see if we can pull through some topics and everything from that. See, nothing like a live into. Okay. Just quickly make this. Not used to that thing firing and disappearing at the side. Froze me a little bit. Let's have a look. I need to do here. So let's move that underneath home. Okay. Oh, that's interesting. Home. Move. Oh no. Give me it back. Oh. Right, let's try. Let's move it to home. Ah, yes, sorry. Well done. Well played, sir. So we'll move that one, put it underneath home. Okay, so line home. Right, let's find our view quickly. Refresh. It's already there. Ah, this is something I actually already done. Look at that. As if by magic. Okay, let's hope this actually is going to work on that. Okay, so what I've got in this view is here. Again, in the view, I've just pulled in the service factory. And all I'm doing is getting recent topics, calling the topic service, category for the main categories, and I'm just getting the latest 10 users. And again, make sure you think about permissions. It doesn't check permissions. I can't stress that enough. It doesn't do. What I'm going to need to do is just give it a rebuild. What happens with these virtual nodes is on startup, it actually registers the routes. When you start changing nodes around, I've actually taken Shannon's code from the latest version. So I'm hoping it actually does update itself, but I'm not going to risk it in front of everybody. So let's have a quick look. Ta-da. So we have a blank page, and then it's pulling in. There you go. It's getting the latest ones. It's also getting categories, and also if you click them, it should just take you straight through. It generates the URL based on where it is in the site, so it'll actually know if it's in a subfolder or another subfolder. It will go and find itself, and you can see it appends the name of the route on there. So it can go anywhere in your site, really. And also, one thing you can do, and this hasn't been fully tested, if you've got a multilingual site, you can actually have multiple forum routes. They are kind of independent. They look for themselves. Anything underneath, they kind of look up and stop where they get there. So you could have another dialogue forum underneath with a different language that would just work independently of the one above it. So if you have multilingual. But again, I haven't tested that fully yet. But apparently it does work because someone has tested it. But as I say, this is on GitHub. And there's a Danish guy that's actually just got involved in it. He's been really good. He's just come up with a ton of enhancement ideas about tags and how to moderate stuff, and that's the kind of thing that I'm looking for. Especially, obviously, I removed tags, like Stack Overflow has tags. I removed that from MVC Forum and from Dialog because I think it needs to be rethought about, because they could be quite useful tags, you know, because you want people don't want to follow a tag or kind of the same sort of stuff as Stack Overflow does. But that's it. That's everything I can show you, I'm afraid. Is there any other questions? Yeah. Well, you could do it. You can do it two different ways. You could have a dialogue route for a specific forum, or you could do it based on a category, and then you could have developers that are in a certain group, the other people are in a certain group, and then you just change the permissions so only developers can only see this category. They can't see any of the others. So when they come on the site, actually they see completely different posts to someone else. So you've got two ways of doing it. I would probably opt that way using categories. Yes. Yeah. I mean, you can do it with categories. You can nest categories. You can actually have subcategories, subcategories. So in a category, you can create your own category structure of like a sub forum, and then you could use the service factory to actually start just, pull out the custom, custom tree or however you wanted to query it. Really, yeah. We've tried to make it as extendable as possible to try and do it, but obviously there's always going to be scenarios that it doesn't suit. But the idea of doing this is that we haven't done like a one fits all. It's just a forum, and now you can extend it and theme it and do whatever you want to it. So, any other questions? I'm going to get a coffee. Great.